Hi, welcome to Best Stories. This is the Adventures of Packy and His Barn Friends, a children's podcast. Season 2, Episode 19. It's Your Lucky Day. After lunch, on the days when all the children are home, it was usually considered quiet time. Or with this family, it was a time when their mom would read a few chapters from one of their favorite novels. All the children would find somewhere comfy to be and listen to their mom read. It was a nice break from the day, because after they had listened to their mom read, they were all ready to get up and find something to do. And when the day was over and they were in their beds, their mom said, "Well, we already had a lot of stories today, so I was thinking we are all set and we don't need a story tonight." One of the children quickly chimed in, "No, we have to find out how they got rid of the skunks from the barn." "Oh, yes, now I remember," said their mom. "Packy and little Jeffrey were sprayed by skunks. They're supposed to go to the farmhouse and find something to help get some of the smell of skunk off them," said another child. "Oh, yes, that's right. Well, I guess I'm going to have to tell a story tonight then," said their mom. "All right then, heads down, covers up, and lights out. It's time for the next story about the adventures of Packy and his barn friends." All of the barn friends were sleeping under some trees by the pond because a family of skunks were in their barn, and when they tried to go into their barn, they got sprayed by the skunks, and they are not sure how they will get them out of their barn. But before they figure that out, the barn friends need to get the skunk smell off Packy and little Jeffrey, who were sprayed by those smelly skunks. Why, they smelled so bad, the barn friends told Packy and little Jeffrey they had to go sleep on the other side of the pond. "Good heavens, Packy and little Jeffrey, I cannot fall asleep with the smell so stinky," Ginger said. "Oh, I'm afraid that is true," said Oliver. "It is quite unbearable." "Well, you should try having that smell all over you," said Packy. "I've tried everything to get rid of the smell, and I can't even eat anything, it smells so bad." "Don't worry, Packy. After we get the stuff from the farmhouse, the smell should be gone," said Priscilla. "I hope so," said Packy. "Me too," said little Jeffrey. "But for now," said Priscilla, "why don't you and little Jeffrey go sleep on the other side of the pond so we all can get some sleep?" "Fine," said Packy. And Packy and little Jeffrey went to find a spot on the other side of the pond. They found a nice grassy area. They laid down and looked up at the sky, quiet and smelling very stinky. Back at the other side of the pond, Oliver said, "Why, I'm trying to find a comfortable spot to lie down, but this is just not the same as my comfortable stall in the barn. And oh, why, look, it looks like we have company out here." Ginger noticed that a large gaggle of geese had just landed near the pond too, but Ginger didn't say anything to anyone because she knew why they were there. They were already starting their flight south for the winter. Then Ginger looked at her injured wing. She was still not able to move her wing, and she knew what that meant. She was not going to be able to fly south for the winter this year, or maybe ever. She sighed at the thought. She had a lot of unanswered questions at the moment that she was very worried about. But right now, she and the barn friends had worse problems to worry about, and all those questions she had would have to wait. And after a while, all the barn friends who were camped out under the stars by the pond fell asleep. And it wasn't surprising that Ginger was the first one awake. She had not slept well with all the worries on her mind. She got up and went for a walk towards the forest. Gobbles got up and followed her. "Oh, good morning, Gobbles," said Ginger. "I didn't know you were awake too. Would you like to take a walk with me?" "Gobble," said Gobbles, and they quietly wandered to a clearing in the forest by the stream. Ginger and Gobbles sat on a little log watching the water flowing down the stream. "Gobbles," said Gobble. "Oh, yes, Gobbles, it is a beautiful morning," said Ginger. "Gobble, Gobble! Well, good heavens, Gobbles, please don't tell me you're trying to tell me that something else is already wrong today, because I don't think I even want to know what else could go wrong." Gobbles got up and gobbled again. Then Ginger looked over to where Gobbles was standing, and Ginger saw something or someone, but as quick as she saw it, it disappeared. "Oh, good heavens, Gobbles, I saw it too. What was that?" said Ginger. "We have to go tell everyone." So Ginger and Gobbles went to find the others to tell everyone she saw something in the forest. And when they got back to the pond, everyone was up though. And when Packy woke up, he told his barn friends he had figured out how he was going to get into the farmhouse. "You see," said Packy, "no one can stand the smell of skunk that is on me. And if I walk into that farmhouse, I'm sure even Celia and Sneakers will run from the smell too. Well, long enough for Priscilla and me to grab the stuff we need anyway." "Oh my, that should work. I'm afraid you do smell awful," said Clara. And everyone else agreed that that was a good idea and it should work. "Oh, why please hurry," said Oliver. "The sooner the better." So without hesitating, Buddy took Packy and Priscilla up to the farmhouse. There was so much going on, Ginger didn't have time to tell her friends that she had seen someone in the forest, or, good heavens, maybe didn't see someone, thought Ginger. She wasn't sure what she saw or what she should tell everyone. She decided as soon as Packy and little Jeffrey had gotten the skunk smell off themselves, she would tell everyone what she had seen or didn't see. When Packy and Priscilla entered the farmhouse, it didn't take long for Celia and Sneakers to spot them. Packy and Priscilla stood frozen, not sure how Celia and Sneakers would react. Celia and Sneakers started creeping towards them. "Oh boy, I'm not sure this is working," said Packy. And they were just about to run, until both cats stopped, put their noses in the air, and let out a loud meow, and ran into the other room. "Phew, it worked. Let's go," said Packy. "I'm on my way," said Priscilla. "I'll get the baking soda and vinegar, and you get the soap." "Okay," said Packy, and Packy jumped onto the counter and ran to the sink. He grabbed the soap and said, "Okay, got it, let's go." "I'm right behind you," said Priscilla. They jumped down to the floor and were ready to run to the door where Buddy was waiting. But Sneakers, that kitten who Packy saved not so long ago, was not so bothered by the smell of skunk or the smell on Packy, and decided he was more interested in Packy and Priscilla, and he pounced back into the kitchen. "Oh, corn nuggets," said Packy, "we have trouble." "I see him," said Priscilla. "Quick, put some soap on the floor," said Priscilla. Packy quickly squirted a puddle of soap on the floor, and then Priscilla dumped some baking soda on top of the soap. "What are you doing?" said Packy. "We need that stuff." "Oh, there's plenty, but when I say go, we both run," said Priscilla. And as Sneakers crept closer and closer, meowing because of the smell, Packy said, "How much longer do we stand here, Priscilla? He's getting close, and he might not like the smell, but it's not stopping him." "Okay, just a little longer," said Priscilla. "Trust me." "I do," said Packy, "but that kitten is no longer a little kitten. Look how sharp its claws are." "Okay," said Priscilla. "Go." Priscilla dumped some vinegar on top of the soap and baking soda, and it bubbled up and fizzled up right in front of Sneakers, startling him and scaring him, giving Packy and Priscilla time to escape to the door where Buddy was waiting. "Let's go," said Packy, and they quickly went to the pond where their friends were waiting. Priscilla rubbed the soap and baking soda on Packy and little Jeffrey, and then she put the vinegar on top of that. "Okay," said Priscilla. "Now go rinse off in the pond." "Okay," they said, and Packy and little Jeffrey ran into the pond. And after a few minutes, they got out and said, "Well, is the smell gone?" Priscilla took a good whiff and said, "I think it's working. I still smell the skunk, but it's not as bad." So after about 5 more times of washing them with soap and baking soda and vinegar, the smell was gone. It had been a long day, but the barn friends finally got the smell of skunk off Packy and little Jeffrey. And they were all very hungry. They wandered about gathering some food. Packy and little Jeffrey were eating as many berries as they picked. They were both so hungry, they hadn't been able to eat too much while they had smelled so bad of skunk. Then while they were in the forest, Packy and little Jeffrey saw someone standing by the stream. Little Jeffrey honked, and then they saw the person disappear. "That was weird," said Packy. "Did you see that person? And then that person just disappeared." "Yeah, I saw it," said little Jeffrey. So Packy and little Jeffrey went to tell their barn friends. They found Oliver and Henry waiting by the pond, and Packy said, "You'll never believe this. Little Jeffrey and I just saw someone by the stream, and then they just disappeared." "Oh, well, I see," said Oliver. "How can that be?" "But we saw someone," said little Jeffrey. "Then they just disappeared." "Show us where you saw that," said Henry. So Packy and little Jeffrey went to the stream and said, "We saw the person right here. Then poof, said Packy. She just disappeared. Well, there's no one here now, said Henry. I know, said Packy. They disappeared. Ginger wandered up to them and said, Good heavens, I saw the same thing this morning, and then the person disappeared, honked Ginger. Why, that is curious, said Oliver. You all saw the same thing. Yes, said Packy. And they all continued to look around, but they didn't see anything else. So they went to meet everyone back at the pond. They all gathered together and ate their dinner, and began discussing how they were going to get those smelly skunks out of their barn. Packy said, Well, we can't get too close to them, so we have to find another way to get them out of the barn. Yes, and we can't scare or startle them, said Priscilla, or they'll spray the barn even worse. Oh my, how are we going to lure them out of the barn, said Clara. Why, I believe that is the right idea, but how do we get close enough without startling them, said Oliver. But not one of the barn friends could think of a way to do that. The problem is, Packy said, those skunks will never want to leave our barn, because, well, it's the perfect home. It has shelter and food, and it's such a comfy place to live, no one would ever want to leave. Good heavens, said Ginger, it is the perfect place. We have to get it back. Yes, indeed, said Oliver. And laying under the stars, missing their barn very much, they all fell asleep. In the morning, the barn friends woke up to the farmhands yelling and screaming, Yikes! Run! Run! It looks like the skunks are still in the barn, said Priscilla. Yeah, it looks like the farmhands are not having any luck getting the skunks out of the barn either, said Packy. Oh, we're never going to get our barn back, said little Geoffrey. But just then, almost out of nowhere, a person appeared. Well, friends, this is your lucky day. Oh, good heavens, it's the person I saw at the stream, said Ginger. Yes, it's the person who we saw disappear too. Who are you, said Packy. Why, my name is Secret Agent Marilyn Harper. Who are you, said Marilyn Harper. Well, I'm Packy, and these are my barn friends. What are you doing here, said Packy. Well, Packy and barn friends, like I said, today is your lucky day. I've been watching you and the farmhands for a few days now, trying to get rid of those skunks, said Marilyn Harper. And I believe I can help. You can? Why, I say, said Oliver, how can you do that? Well, after observing your situation and researching about that particular specimen in my lab, I believe I found the answer on how to get those skunks out of your barn, said Marilyn Harper. Good heavens, Secret Agent Marilyn Harper, please help us, said Ginger. Oh, don't you worry, barn friends, said Marilyn Harper. We can get those smelly skunks out of your barn, and I will help you. This is great, said Priscilla. How, said Packy. I will start right now. Where's your lab, said Priscilla. We'd love to see it. Now, Secret Agent Marilyn Harper was very happy to help the barn friends. Well, like I said, this is your lucky day, barn friends. But right now, I have other secret agent work to tend to, said Marilyn Harper, and I will meet you back here by the pond when the sun is straight up in the sky. Packy said, But wait, how are we going to get the skunks out of the barn? But Secret Agent Marilyn Harper was gone. She disappeared again, said little Geoffrey. Where does she go? The barn friends looked all around, but little Geoffrey was right. She had disappeared again. Good heavens, how does she do that, said Ginger. Well, now the barn friends had no choice but to wait for Secret Agent Marilyn Harper and hope that she would be able to help them get those stinky skunks out of their barn. Oh my, there they go again, mooed Clara, as the barn friends watched the farmhands run out of the barn again, shouting, Yikes! Run! Run! You see, the farmhands still had not been able to get the skunks out of the barn. And when the sun was straight up in the sky, as Marilyn Harper had promised, she appeared by the pond and walked up to the barn friends and said, Well, barn friends, like I promised, here I am, and today is your lucky day. I will tell you what you have to do to get those smelly skunks out of your barn. Well, Packy and barn friends, said Secret Agent Marilyn Harper, we just have to make them want to leave your barn. Well, how do we do that, said Priscilla. They seem very fond of our barn. In my lab, I researched what skunks hate, said Marilyn Harper, and I found out they hate bright light and they hate loud noises. So you just need to make the barn somewhere where they do not want to be, Then they will leave, said Secret Agent Marilyn Harper. If the barn is somewhere they are enjoying, they will stay and not want to leave. So if we just use bright light and make noises, they will leave our barn, said Packy. That's right, said Marilyn Harper. Why, Marilyn Harper, you are a genius, said Oliver. Well, I have been told that, but I am a secret agent, said Marilyn Harper. The barn friends all smiled. Now they knew what would make the skunks leave. They just had to figure out how they will do it. I say, said Oliver, I wonder if you had any ideas on how we would go about using noise and light to get the skunks out of the barn. Well, Packy and barn friends, I have not figured that part out as of yet. I have been busy with other secret agent work. Well, I'm sure we can think of something, said Packy. And the barn friends all sat around the pond, trying to think of how to make noise and get bright lights so the skunks would leave the barn. Packy sat on a log, and he was tapping it with a stick as he was thinking. And little Jeffrey kept letting out loud honks as he sat thinking. Honk, 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 said little Jeffrey. Well, said Marilyn Harper, a few more of your barn friends add to that noise, and I think you'll have that noise part covered. What do you mean, said Packy. Well, Packy, if you take that stick and hit it against another stick, well, and that goose honks and makes a noise, that will make a noise those skunks don't like. Oh, and we can bleat real loudly, said Lily and the Lamb twins, and they let out a loud ba, ba, ba. That is loud, said Marilyn Harper. Oh my, said Clara, and I can ring my bell and moo, too, to make noise. I just remembered, said Priscilla, I have some lights in my bag from when I was out in the meadow. I can ride on Henry and shine the lights right at them. Like this, said Priscilla, and she turned the lights right on Packy. Packy put his hands to his face to avoid the bright light. I get it, said Packy. Turn it off, Priscilla, it's too bright, said Packy. So the barn friends went to the back of the barn. They thought it would be best to come up from behind, make a lot of noise, and shine those lights right on the skunks, and hopefully they'd run right out of the front of the barn and never return. Okay, on the count of 3, we all rush into the barn, making as much noise as we can, said Packy. And I'll shine the lights right on them, said Priscilla. 1, 2, 3. The barn friends charged into the barn from the back door, and Oliver snorted loudly, Lily and the Lamb twins bleated really loud, Packy hit the sticks together, Ginger honked, and little Jeffrey honked, and Clara mooed and shook her bell. And Priscilla rode on Henry, shining the lights right at those skunks. And their plan worked splendid. The skunks ran from the light and noise as fast as they could. Then the barn friends made even more noise, shouting and cheering. They were so happy to have their barn back. Home sweet home, said Henry. And Packy thanked Marilyn Harper for her help. Packy said, we would have never gotten our barn back without your help, Secret Agent Marilyn Harper. I told you today was your lucky day, and, well, I just told you what you needed to do to get them out. That's all. You and your barn friends did the rest, said Marilyn Harper. And why, Packy, you and your barn friends are lucky not just because you have your barn back, said Marilyn Harper. Packy knew what she meant. They were lucky to have each other. Then Marilyn Harper said, but I was wondering, Packy, if you and your barn friends would be interested in helping me with the project I am working on. Yes, of course, said Packy. Well, meet me at the pond tomorrow when the sun is straight up in the sky, said Secret Agent Marilyn Harper. We'll be there, said Packy. And Packy went to share the news with his friends. Packy went into the barn, and all his barn friends were settled and happy in their stalls. Packy told the barn friends, Secret Agent Marilyn Harper wants us to meet her tomorrow at the pond when the sun is straight up in the sky. And then all the barn friends were very excited, but they were even more excited to be back in their barn. Packy started cleaning up some of the barn. Priscilla said, don't worry about the mess, Packy. We can clean it tomorrow. Are you sure, said Packy. Yes, said Priscilla. It looks perfect to me. Well, I say, said Oliver, it is true what is said. You really appreciate something most when you almost lose it. And all the barn friends had to agree on that. They loved their barn. And that is the end of this episode about the adventures of Packy and his barn friends. Thanks for listening. But wait, before we go, we should give Secret Agent Marilyn Harper credit for helping out the Barn Friends, because she was right. Skunks hate bright light. Skunks are nocturnal animals. They like to come out at night when it's dark. And they do hate loud noises too. And I'm sure glad they got rid of the skunk smell on Packy and little Jeffrey too. But I wonder what Secret Agent Marilyn Harper wants to ask the Barn Friends. What do you think? Listen to the next episode in the Adventures of Packy the Rat to find out. And thanks for listening to Best Stories.